A very good day to Dr. Manjit and my fellow tutorial mates. My name is Amira Zulaika Binti ZAMRI, and today I'm going to be presenting on dialect at risk, specifically the impact of language standardization on dialect survival. So first of all, I think it's appropriate enough for us to understand what a dialect is. And according to Hogan, dialect is commonly used to refer to a regional or a local language variety. And from the lecture slides, we found out that there are three types of dialect, which is the regional dialect, the social dialect, and also the minority or the indigenized variety. And so dialect reflects to social and your cultural identities, and even Swanenberg mentioned that local dialect changes faster because of global mobility and also digital communication. Next is for us to understand what a language standardization means. Well, it means to be promoting one variety of a language as something prestigious or something correct. And standardization, according to Ramlan, involves fixing linguistic and also social functions of a language. And for example, we see English language. Standard English is often used in education, in media, or in official settings. Now, our focus on today's dialect will be on the AAVE dialect, which is the African American Vernacular English, which is a social dialect spoken mainly by the African Americans, and they have a very rich grammar, vocabulary, and also identity. However, they are often misjudged as to having a broken English, even though they are very systematic and they have their own rule governed variety. And under the three types that we mentioned before, AAVE falls under the social dialect. And like we mentioned before, AAVE is often viewed as something improper or something informal instead of a standard English language. And from the lecture slides, we found out that if a language is a standard, then it has a higher prestige. So look at the photo on the right side, where we can see when a language has a higher prestige, they have less regional variation. And this is supported by Bowen in 2020. So how do we know that AAVE is struggling to survive as a dialect? Because of this study. This is a study in 1996, Oakland School Board debate, the Ebonics controversy, where Oakland School Board actually claimed that black people or black students used African language systems, and they felt like this was not a dialect of English. Matter of fact, they thought that this is a new language, a different language. And this statement has led to a lot of misunderstanding and confusion, and it brings backlash from the media and the public. Critics like journalists has misunderstood the issue, and they thought that AAVE was called a foreign language, is a completely different language, when we all know that AAVE is a dialect subordinate of English, and it deserves its own respect. Why? Because media coverage only focuses on errors like the short forms of AAVE's, the dialect of English, like they're using sentences like "what are you doing?" or things like that, and instead of understanding that this is a language legitimacy, it is a dialect. And because we also understand that AAVE has consistent grammar and pronunciation rules, so it's not broken English, it is a subdivision of English falling under the category called dialect. It's just different from standard English. So actually, what will happen after standardization? So of course, the future generation will shift far away from understanding AAVE, and then they will only use this dialect under informal situation or context. It will never be used in formal settings because we have the internalized linguistic inferiority where standard version of English will be used, and this will lead to the cultural disconnection from the future generation. So it is a very big concern to the community. So these are just some ways to preserve AAVE. We have, ways to recognize it as a legitimate linguistic system. We can also, instead of teaching students to code erasing, teach them to code switching. And we can also support the academic research and the community awareness like we are doing right now, like a presentation on AAVE. And also we can encourage the use of AAVE in music, in poetry, in media, and also education. So we finally come to the conclusion part of the presentation, which we have understood that yes, standardization does help with communication, but it also can risk to dialect loss, and AAVE holds a very cultural and historical and emotional value. So by preserving this dialect, we are also preserving a vital part of the American identity. And these are my references, and thank you so much for listening.